Blackbeard is one of the most renowned names in the world of piracy. Though he had a rather ambiguous youth, he had a swift rise to infamy, lived fast, and went out with a bang. Or maybe a slice. Regardless of his eventual fate, his career in piracy left behind a legacy that remains prevalent in modern media to this day, be it games, TV shows, or movies. In this video, we're going to cover everything Blackbeard, including his life, career as a swashbuckling, plundering sea dog, and things to know beyond his life. It starts with a young Edward Teach, or is it Thatch? Teach? I don't know, man. One person even says his name is Drummond, but probably not. A young Edward Teach moves to New Providence from Jamaica, New Providence being that place in the Bahamas with Nassau, in case you forgot. Around 1716, he joins Captain Benjamin Hornigold in his skullduggerous escapades and gets put in charge of a sloop he had captured earlier. Being a privateer in Queen Anne's War around 1713, it wasn't his first time on a ship, and it wasn't his first time taking one either. His time with Hornigold wasn't very boring. In 1717, they took multiple ships out of Havana, Bermuda, and Madeira, taking dozens of barrels of flour and developing a taste for Madeira's wine on the way. They even took a ship out of Virginia to get more Madeira wine, scuttling the ship once they were through with it. In September of the same year, he encountered Stede Bonnet, a wealthy military officer turned pirate, whose crew yearned for a new command. With Bonnet's approval, Teach commandeered the vessel, Revenge, and its crew of about 70. In October, the small fleet of 4 ships, Teach's old sloop, Revenge, Hornigold's Ranger, and one unnamed craft, took 2 more cargo ships between Philadelphia and Dublin, emptying them both. Towards the end of 1717, Hornigold was demoted by his crew and retired from piracy shortly thereafter. Taking 2 ships with him, he left Teach with Revenge and one unnamed sloop, and the 2 never crossed paths again. Shortly after, Hornigold signed the King's pardon. In November, Teach and his crew attacked a French ship off the coast of St. Vincent in the Caribbean. This ship was La Concorde, a slave ship that had seen numerous name and crew changes since 1711. After a long-winded battle of broadside cannons, the French surrendered the ship, and after taking the crew and cargo from the ship, Teach took the ship as his own, dubbing it the Queen Anne's Revenge, and leaving Revenge to his Lieutenant Thomas Richards. Some of the French crew took the smaller unnamed sloop and left, whereas others sat marooned for a while before the ship came back to rescue them. So, the year passes and Blackbeard is flying solo now, and what does every good pirate do when they're in charge? Get sloshed and bang a bunch of hookers, obviously. But you know what comes with such a lifestyle? That's right, sufficient treasure discoveries. Wait, hold on. My pirate dictionary is out of date, I think? Oh, right. It actually stands for sexually transmitted diseases. My bad. So, Blackbeard and co get a little itchy downstairs, so like any reasonable sailor, they blockade the entirety of Charleston Harbor, taking numerous ships hostage who were trying to leave port. Blackbeard sent a message to the governor, threatening to behead all of the hostages and send their heads to him and burn their ships after. The governor caved, offering them absurd amounts of medicine to free the hostages, and once they landed ashore, Blackbeard sent 2 of his crew to escort the governor, but after they disappeared, he had more of his crew go look for him. As with all sea dogs, they were found completely sloshed yet again. Oh, you filthy, filthy pirates. You're so silly and kooky and wretched. This blockade of Charleston Harbor is one of Blackbeard's most infamous exploits. By holding an entire port hostage, he demonstrated the sheer power a small band of pirates could wield over the colonial establishment. This whole endeavor had neighboring colonies and ports pretty shook up. If one guy and a couple ships could hold an entire city for ransom, just think about what they could do to them. Blackbeard himself really didn't get much out of this, besides the medicine. He picked some of the fancier clothes off of people, but that's about it. The real money is in the infamy. With people entire oceans across knowing the name of the fearsome Blackbeard, it was clear that his tale would be one for the history books. Except, maybe not really. The rest of the year was a bit iffy, honestly, starting with a rather large collision of 2 of his ships into a sandbar after a failed maneuver called careening near the modern-day Beaufort Inlet. Even legends experience missteps. The collision near Beaufort Inlet reminds us that despite his larger-than-life image, Blackbeard was still at the mercy of the sea, a realm where even the bravest could falter. Then, after leaving some of his crew marooned and leaving on the 2 sloops he had left, he learned about a particular king's pardon. He was skeptical about it at first, since it could prove risky and result in him still being tried for his crimes, but he was also willing to sign it and waive, hopefully, his past transgressions. So, he sent out one Stede Bonnet to surrender to Governor Charles Eden of Charleston and sign the pardon, just to see what had happened. After Bonnet signed the pardon, he went to find the Revenge and his crew before setting sail to St. Thomas Island to collect payment. Well, Bonnet went to go find Blackbeard, but he never crossed his path again and was later hanged for piracy along with 3 of his crew. Blackbeard had met a few more noteworthy figures before his passing, such as Charles Vane and Calico Jack, and being chased by Woodes Rogers and pirate-turned-pirate hunter Benjamin Hornigold. In November of 1718, the fearsome Blackbeard had finally fallen. His body being shot 5 times and sliced 20, it was a clear group effort from the crew of Lieutenant Robert Maynard, who had him sliced in the back of the neck during a showdown. About 10 crewmates on each side were killed before the pirates eventually surrendered, and Teach's head was severed and placed at the bow of his ship to collect his bounty. And so concludes the story of Blackbeard, the most feared pirate on the seas. But we've still got things to talk about, don't we? See this flag? With a heart and skeleton? This is totally made up. Teach may have used flags like this, but there's no clear evidence that he's ever seen this flag in his lifetime. A lot of what we know about Blackbeard is muddled by layers and layers of media portrayals, often being mistaken for historical evidence. And since he's been dead for 3 centuries now, it's often difficult to discern what's true. The majority of the modern world's Blackbeard knowledge can be traced back to one Charles Johnson and his 1724 book, A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates. Despite no major developments in his interest or story for 2 decades, he managed to survive as a namesake until the 1950s, when his portrayal in media boomed. His name and character have been portrayed in literature since the year that he died, but it wasn't until 1952 where he was portrayed in film, titled Blackbeard the Pirate. If there's footage of it floating around on the internet, I'll put it right here. And there are way too many Blackbeards in media to count, so I'll list off a few iterations that are more notable in recent times. He appears in popular manga and anime titled One Piece, and he goes under Marshall D. Teach, but is also referred to as Blackbeard. He appears in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but he goes by Thatch rather than Teach. He appears in Pirates of the Caribbean, both reflected in Jack Sparrow's character, and literally appears in the 4th movie titled On Stranger Tides. There's also countless series and films under the Blackbeard name or something similar, but if he isn't at least a minor character in anything pirate-related, his character often is. On top of that, he also lives on in real locations. Ironically, one of the best known is in Charleston. So, to summarize, Blackbeard was a pirate. Though he wasn't really the best at anything, he's still often considered the pirate. He's one of the first names to come to mind when one mentions a pirate, and has remained so for the last 300 years. His life was remarkable, and he struck fear into the hearts of his adversaries even after his passing. Though parts of the video were brief brushes past moments in his life, we decided to pick the most noteworthy moments in his life and beyond. And with that, the video is over. Thanks for watching, man. Is it true that when they killed you and threw your body overboard, you swam around the ship?
Yeah.
Okay.